name is Beth Ekman. On behalf of the Honors Program, I'm pleased to welcome you to our latest presentation. This is Emily Percival, who also happens to be my student. So introducing her mentor, Beth Ekman. Emily?
Well, welcome everybody to the Honors Symposium. I've seen some really great presentations here today. My peers have been working really hard. As Dr. Ekman said, I did my thesis and my presentation over an examination of the scholars of the death penalty as a human issue. This has been a really interesting topic for me, so I'm enjoying it. I wanted to talk briefly over my interest in this topic and how I got started. I knew going into my thesis prep course with Dr. Ekman that I wanted to do something over feminist scholarship, and she said too broad. So I narrowed it down and I decided to connect it to a social justice issue. And living in Texas, I thought it would be interesting and relevant to do it with the death penalty. So just for reference, since 1976, Texas has executed 561 people. The most recent being 2 days ago, you might have seen it in the news. And to put it in perspective or in contrast, the state with the second highest number of executions is Virginia, with just 113. So there's a pretty large discrepancy there. Okay, I know I broke the rule. You're not supposed to put a bunch of text on the screen, but I wanted to have my abstract of workplace. It's also in the brochures for you guys. I'm going to read it for you. So feminists have historically been outspoken in the confrontation of violence and employment and violence in general, but the use of the death penalty against women, an undeniable act of state-sanctioned violence, remains a peripheral issue at best among feminist scholars. This thesis acknowledges and identifies the gap between the discourse and the arguments for why the death penalty is a lower priority for feminists than other forms of violence, for example, sexual assault and relationship violence. This research considers the feminist theory of intersectionality to describe the intellectual landscape that shapes these gap mechanisms. And finally, this thesis argues in favor of inclusion of capital punishment as a base issue. So what does all of that mean? Essentially, as I mentioned, there's not a whole lot of work on discovering a gap in feminist academia. And originally I was trying to find why that is, why feminists have been so silent on the issue of death penalty. And the reasons for that, we might not be looking at the death penalty, such as there aren't enough women on death row. Those reasons aren't going to get that anymore. And my thesis eventually evolved into a more proactive stance, where I argued that we should be considering it as more of a priority, and that's where my research has led me, and that's where we are today. So I'm just going to launch into my chapters and take you through my process and my thesis. So the first one, I was just looking at the gap in the discourse. This is my introduction, where I explored what the gap is, and why feminists have talked about a wide range of other issues, like I mentioned sexual assault, domestic abuse, but not the death penalty. So very little academic work out there. I did find two feminist scholars, two feminist authors writing in the early 2000s who had also identified this gap and acknowledged it. They worked in the early 2000s, so their work is becoming more outdated with every passing year. And later I'm going to go over some of their arguments and provide my own counter-arguments. They speculated on why feminists might not be talking about this, so I'm going to refute those, but we'll save that for later. My second chapter assumes that if feminists aren't looking at the death penalty as a major issue, they have to be looking at something else. So I did some research, and the answer I came up with probably won't surprise many of you. Here on campus, we call it Title IX. On social media, it's called #MeToo. And around the world, it's the issue of sexual assault. This is a major feminist issue. We're placing a big priority on it right now, with good reason. Extremely prevalent. So I researched two contemporary cases to back up my claim. And the first was Stanford student Brock Turner, who was in the news a few years ago. And then last summer, we had Supreme Court Justice nominee Brett Kavanaugh. So the first, Brock Turner, he was successfully convicted of 3 counts of criminal sexual assault, which can carry 14 years in prison. He only served 3 months of jail time. Brett Kavanaugh was never convicted, he was never tried, he wasn't indicted, but he was accused had allegations against him from Dr. Christine Ford of attempting to assault her at a party 36 years prior. Despite these allegations, he still ascended to the highest court in the land. So it really made feminists question the uneven distribution of justice here. So why am I bringing up these cases and the rise of the Me Too movement on social media? What does it have to do with our question of the death penalty? Well, sexual assault isn't a new thing, it's not a new issue, and it's really not one feminists are just beginning to talk about. But right now it's become such a prevalent issue, and I think feminists are surprised by how widespread it still is. We're living in 2019, and I don't think anyone expected that we would still be dealing with issues to this degree. They won't be eradicated probably ever completely, but we are supposed to be living in a more civilized, modern society, so I think feminists have their hands full. However, I'm not arguing that sexual assault has had its time in the limelight and that it's time for them to move on to the death penalty. It's not really an either-or issue. However, feminists don't have to limit themselves just to issues of sexuality. I argue instead that they can have multiple priorities. Next, I went back to my feminist scholars that I mentioned at the beginning who wrote in the early 2000s, and I refuted their arguments. So one of the reasons feminists might not be looking at the death penalty, perhaps you've already considered this, is there aren't a lot of women on death row. Right now we have 55. That's true, but that number is actually going up every single year, so the argument that there aren't a lot of women is going to be changing. Also, it's extremely narrow to think that typically feminists, yes, they're interested in inequality between the sexes, but that doesn't mean they just care about women. In fact, they're fighting against systemic oppression everywhere, and the death penalty definitely falls into that. So the men being impacted are relevant as well. Another reason feminists might not be talking about the death penalty is because those on death row are considered criminals. They've committed these heinous crimes. Why should they be worthy of feminist consideration? I countered with, for one, traditionally feminists have not made a distinction between women who are deserving or undeserving. It's not really what it's about. And two, especially in recent decades, DNA exoneration has exonerated so many inmates who were death row sometimes posthumously. So the crimes that they were being accused of and awful deeds may not even be their crimes. So that's a big one. And I also looked up why they may not be talking about it from more of a legal perspective. So as I'm sure everyone is aware of, women don't have a lot of representation in the government and our legal processes. So their voices are largely absent from the legal frameworks and the death penalty and the criminal justice system. So the opportunity for women and feminists to speak out in a way that makes institutional changes doesn't really exist. But the death penalty still demands some kind of effort, or at least more of an effort than is being given at this moment. I then moved on to the theory of intersectionality. Has anyone ever heard of this? Just curious. Can you raise your hand or not? Okay. Awesome. Not a lot of people. That's okay. It's a very niche academic theory. But essentially, I knew going into this, I didn't want, even though I'm looking at it from a feminist perspective, through a feminist lens, I didn't want to just look at gender of inmates, and that's where the theory of intersectionality comes into play. So essentially, this theory states that there are groups in society who are traditionally marginalized by interlocking systems of power, but when certain groups have identities that intersect, they're more likely to be even more marginalized. So for example, a woman in society is going to be more oppressed, as is a person of color. But a woman of color has those intersecting identities, and she's even more likely to be marginalized or oppressed. So essentially, intersectionality looks beyond just one method of identification. And according to this theory, those on death row should not be excluded from feminist consideration for any of those reasons that I mentioned. So a person's socioeconomic status, their sexual orientation, their race or ethnicity, or their gender should not be considered when deciding whether they're worth being treated as an issue. So I argue that if feminists are going to claim to care about those in a disadvantaged position who are being hurt by these entrenched interlocking systems of power, then they should be giving more attention to the death penalty. And I wrapped it up with arguing that they should care, but I wanted to explain a little bit more about why. So for one, capital punishment is a life and death issue. Feminists have given attention to a huge range of issues like are leggings pants, yes they are. But the point is, if we can care about our fashion choices, then something like people being sentenced to death, legal state-sanctioned murder, they should give more attention to that as well. Another reason is capital punishment system and the criminal justice system as a whole is notoriously racist. So minority defendants with white victims are far more likely to be sentenced to death than white defendants with minority victims. Other people on death row right now, 60% are people of color or minorities. So that's a huge thing. Intersection feminism requires that we care about this race disparity and this racial difference. And finally, I argue that women should care more about the death penalty than they are currently, because the conversation right now is extremely one-sided. The system is not gender equitable and it represents a traditionally masculine all-or-nothing viewpoint that focuses on revenge or retribution rather than actual restitution. I think the capital punishment system does actually line up with feminist goals and objectives of ending that system of repression and helping those that they have traditionally. I want to say a special thanks to all my friends and family for helping me over the month, my mentor, Dr. Ekman, thank you, and Mark, thank you for the beginning. That is all I have for you guys, so I'm going to open the floor to questions now. Any questions? Yes.
I'm curious to know, like, why your argument isn't that it's just like a human rights issue overall. Because you did mention that there's like, I forgot the number now, but like there are a lot of women on death row, and the average stay is like 15 years on death row overall. So I'm curious why your argument isn't in general, like maybe the death penalty shouldn't be a thing. Why specifically did you hone in on like this topic?
Right, that's a really good question. So to start with, I'd say it definitely is a human rights issue, like broadly. But I chose this topic, and I chose not to argue for the abolition of capital punishment. It almost started that way for me, but the gap that I found was more interesting to me. The fact that specifically feminists, who I would argue do care about human rights and they just talk about so much, are so vocal on so many important things, but not this. And it was bizarre to me that feminism is associated with being liberal, and liberals typically oppose the death penalty. So I thought I would find so much work on feminism against the death penalty, and that wasn't the case. I found 2 women in the early 2000s who wrote about this, one of them arguing for the abolition of the capital punishment system as a whole. It was just fascinating to me. So I do think it's a human rights issue, but I went with this just because I wanted to incorporate that feminist lens that doesn't exist.
So are there any organizations at all that are trying to like, even outside of the country, that are like fighting for this, or no?
It's a really good question. I'm not sure. I didn't really cover that. And I think I was looking more at feminist academia and like individual writers, or maybe even groups who are writing about it, but I didn't look outside the country or anything. My focus was primarily Texas and the United States.
What was the most interesting part of the research?
I thought a lot of the statistics were surprising, actually. They kind of threw me a little bit, and taking me by surprise. Like the fact that more people are being executed every year. And I also found that, I didn't mention this in my presentation, but most Americans are in support of the death penalty as of like 2019.
They are or they aren't?
Are, which surprised me. That the statistics that Texas, I knew Texas like outpaced everyone else. I didn't realize it by the hundreds. And then the number of people on death row right now is about 2,700, and of that, 5,500. So that was also
Did you come across anything, I'm just curious, and this is kind of like a broader question, because you referred to the judicial system, the lack of equality for women. Did you come how the system can be like adaptability or change or something that is directly like can be done like circumstances. I know it's like a big
It is. Yeah. I actually think it's already happening. Like if I look at our current Congress and how our lawmakers are becoming more and more diverse, more voices are being incorporated, more youth voices. I think those institutional changes are already happening, but I didn't look at like specific ways that it can happen. Does that make sense today? Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you personally think about like crimes that are particularly heinous. No, like, you know, like I was looking at one in Arkansas that recently was like executed and she like killed her 2 children. And like crimes of that nature, if particularly with women, what are we supposed to do with people that we don't believe are going to be rehabilitated? What do you reckon? Like, what do you think personally?
Right. I think it's interesting also for this topic I'm talking about, feminists and women caring about it when a lot of these capital crimes are against women. So that's even like more of a reason why should we care. Personally, I do think there's always a hope for rehabilitation, restitution. Yeah. I think the current system doesn't work. It doesn't rehabilitate anyone. If you were here in the previous presentation, we talked about restorative justice, which I thought was really interesting. It would be a really good way to go about restoring communities or helping those who are hurt rather than just killing people. Because that can be anything. I don't know if you read about the case from the Texas man who was executed 2 days ago. His family, or the victim's family, didn't want him executed, and the state did it anyway. So I think a lot of the times it's even like people, they don't want it. You know, I don't know if that answers.
It did, yeah.
All right. Professor Beckman, would you like to confer your mentee soul? Okay, I was thinking, what am I going to say about Emily? She's really smart, not unusual with honor students, but what I would like to talk about is how very hard she is to intimidate, how very bold she is. Most students faced with a gap in the scholarship would back off. Most students faced with really hard questions like this would back off. And she's hard to intimidate. She stayed in there, and this was just academically and intellectually, but just academically, this was a really, really difficult topic. And she never would back off of it. She stayed in the game, and she kept digging, and she kept working. And especially with the area of intersectionality, that is some really dense reading. And she just essentially forced herself to learn this whole thing. And I think she did an amazing job. And you hear professors, teachers say all the time that it's been a privilege to work with a student. It's genuinely been a privilege to work with you. We have so much fun when we talk. We can spend all day. Congratulations.